Well, hello, and welcome to my latest video. Yes, it's back. Julian talks men's health, delving into the deep. Quick recap. Had a hernia, went to the doctor, had a blood test, identified raised prostate levels, went for an MRI scan, and then they said to me, Julian, we've got some bad news, mate. No, not that bad news. They said, you're going to have a biopsy of your prostate. And I said, what's a biopsy? And they said, we're going to have to go in. Yes, we're going to have to go in deep. And we're going to have to remove some tissue from your prostate gland, which we're then going to test to see if you've got cancer. Now, I've got to say, first of all, very quick appointment. No problems, no complaints with the NHS whatsoever. So, let me say by way of a preamble that obtaining tissue samples from your prostate involves entering what is colloquially known amongst the royal family as your back passage. So when I discuss this particular topic, those of you of a sensitive nature, or perhaps who have grandparents or young children listening, may wish to ensure that they hear every gory detail of this particular process. And if you're unhappy with hearing about back passages or feces or bodily parts or bodily functions, well, I'm afraid you're going to be a little bit disappointed, because that's mostly what this video is about. So let's get to it. Okay, the first thing is, the night before, you obviously want to make sure that when you have this biopsy performed, you have nothing in your bottom that you don't want the doctor to see. So I thought, I know. My friend gave me a recipe for spicy beans, so I thought, yes, I'll have spicy beans the night before, and that will ensure that in the morning I go to the toilet and I empty myself. And sure enough, yes, I went to the toilet twice, as I normally do, and felt pleased with the outcome, and showered and talked. Is it talcumed? Anyway, I wanted to arrive, you know, clean and fragrant and fresh as a daisy, almost as if the day I was born to have this procedure done. So anyway, I went along to the hospital. Won't tell you the name of the hospital because it's not that kind of video. With my wife, before appointment was due at 9:40. You know, we went in, we sat down. Now, one thing, and here's a little tip for you, actually, here's a little tip. When you go for this procedure, you have to give a urine specimen. Now, as like, I think a lot of people, if you're under a certain amount of stress or strain, or, well, not strain, but you know, you're a little bit worried, you have some difficulty passing some urine. So my friend gave me a couple of specimen bottles and said, before you go, when you wake up in the morning and you feel a need to go to the toilet, fill the bottles and you take them with you, and then you don't have that pressure of having to do a specimen when you get there. So you might want to take that tip. So it's quite useful. So get there, right, and they check your details and so forth, and you go and sit in the waiting area with all the other men who are about to have their bottoms investigated or do something else with a flow test. I won't go into what a flow test is at the moment. You don't need to know. Anyway, my appointment is due at 9:40. So you're sitting there, everybody's playing with their phones, trying not to look at each other and say, well, what are you in it for? Despite the fact you're in the urology clinic, of course. Anyway, the appointment is running a bit late. Okay, so I'm sitting there and I'm thinking, ooh, I need a shit. And he said, well, I can't want to have a shit because, you know, I had a shit and I had a shower, so I had myself nice and clean. So I don't want to now have a shit. And so when I go in and the doctor has to perform his duties, you know, I'm kind of grubby, as it were. So you think, no, I don't want to have a shit. And then you think, well, what is the side effect? What was one of the main side effects of eating spicy beans? Yes, well, you want to pass wind, as they say in the royal family, or as the rest of us say, you want to fart. So you think, okay, well, it's not. I don't need a shit. What I need to do is fart. Okay, I mean, no, you can't sit there in a crowded waiting room. I know you think you can. But you can't sit there in a crowded waiting room and just let off to your heart's content. So I say to my wife, I'm going for a wee. She said, you're all right. I said, yeah, I'm going for a wee. So you go in the toilet. And of course you can do it. But can you fart? Of course you can't. Now, you know what it's like. You're in a crowded lift or something like that. Or you're in a you're in a meeting, one of those important meetings at work, and you go, and everybody's letting off by the sound and fury, but when you want to do it, you can't bloody produce. So I'm in the toilet, and goes, that's never happening. So, and the appointment is delayed. You see, the appointment is delayed. So I go back and sit with my wife. I was sitting there a bit longer playing the phone. So I thought, ooh, now it's coming, right? Now it's coming. The Hurricane Jules is descending on the Caribbean. So I think, I know, I'm going to go for another wee, and while I'm in there, it's going to be an explosion. And of course, same thing happens. It doesn't happen, you see. So my appointment is an hour after I anticipated. You might want to kind of try and factor this in if you can. Anyway, you go and see the consultant. Very nice. Tells you what's going to happen. Gives you a couple of pills as an antibiotic thing, and then says, "Okay, we're going to be ready for you in a couple of minutes." So don't go away, because we're getting to the nitty gritty. We're getting to the heart of the matter. We're getting to the real pay dirt, as it were. So there's a little intermission now when you make yourself a cup of coffee or have a cigarette, or perhaps shift a little in your seat, or maybe you want to fart as well. So don't go away, I'll be back soon. Okay, are you sitting comfortably? So the end is nigh. So you get called into the room, okay, where all this thing is going to happen, right? And there's the consultant in there, and there's a healthcare assistant, and there's a nurse. Okay, there's a couple of students, and there's a cabinet minister, and a traffic warden. There's about half a dozen people in this bloody room, and the healthcare assistant locks the door. He says, "We don't want anybody coming in." I said, "Too fucking right, we don't, mate." And he takes me behind a screen. He says, "Okay, take off all your clothes except your socks." And I'm thinking, what is it about the socks? Anyway, so I take off all my clothes, right? And I kept my socks on, right? And he says, put the gown on so it's open at the back, you know, the kind of thing when you go into a hospital. And he takes me round, okay? He takes me round to the device. Now, if you are a lady, and ladies are bound to be watching this video because you're interested in knowing what your man is going to go through, or what men go through. And it's a kind of dentist chair with stirrups. And as I say, ladies will be familiar with this device if you've had babies or investigations for your own anatomy. Anyway, so he says, "Okay, get on the dentist chair," and you kind of lie back. And you put your legs in the stirrups, and he straps you down. Okay, so it's like it's like a lethal injection gurney. So you're strapped down, and then the chair kind of leans back. You see, so you end up. I mean, if you're one of those kind of wicked children or kind of formative serial killers or whatever it is, and you used to enjoy turning a beetle on its back. Have you ever seen a beetle on its back? And it's going like that. You see, I don't know if you can see that. Can you see that? Okay, so you're leaning back, you've got your two legs up in the air, and you're naked apart from this hospital gown, and everything is on display to these half dozen cabinet ministers and 14 nurses and a couple of traffic wardens and Chris Froome or whoever it is happens to be walking in. And the healthcare assistant, because you slide down in the chair, so you slide down the chair a little bit, so you kind of, your arse is up a bit. You just slide down a bit more. So you're not going to be off the fucking chair in a minute. You slide down a bit more, but you're held by the stirrups, you see, you're held by the stirrups. And he says, "Okay, you can lie back," and they kind of sweep up your bits and secure them with a few bits of sellotape or something like that. And then you kind of wait, and you're pinned. Okay, so you're an upside down beetle with your legs secured, your hands behind you like that, and you're pinned. Okay, and then you wait. You see, and so the consultant comes over. Now the thing about it is, right, you're lying back, and he's kind of on a stool between your legs, so you can't see him, right? And I mean, you've got an idea of what he's looking at, but you can't see him. And he says, "Okay, what I'm going to do is," he says, "I'm going to spray some cold spray on you first, which is I don't know, kind of antiseptic or something like that. Then I'm going to put some anaesthetic gel in your back passage, and then we're going to do the procedure. So you say, okay, right, go ahead. So then he gets this, you know, one of those spray things like the barber has. You know, when they spray it on your hair, wet your hair, something like that. So they spray it on your hair. It's nice, actually. It's like, you know that film Ice Cold in Alex, right, where they're all sitting at the bar and John Mills or something, they all have a couple of bottles of Carlsberg. You think, oh, it's nice, actually. It's quite cold and it's quite, you know, liquidy, and it's, you know, it's on your arse. You think, quite like this. And then he says, okay, now I'm going to put the anaesthetic gel in. So I'm going to insert it. So he goes, oh, fuck me. But the thing is, so he puts the anaesthetic gel in, because when he does the procedure and removes the tissue, you see, he's got to go through your perineum, which is the kind of bit of skin between your scrotum and your arse, if you know what I mean. So there is a certain amount of pain involved there, or can be. So they need to give you some anaesthetic stuff. So he says, okay, I'm going to put this gel on, right, and then we're going to leave it for a few minutes until it goes to work. So you say, okay, fair enough. So he goes, puts the anaesthetic gel in, you see, and then they all fuck off, right? All the cabinet ministers and nurses and consultants or something, I mean, they off to have a couple of games of pool. The cabinet ministers have a cabinet meeting. They go down Pratt, get themselves a sandwich and a cup of coffee. And you're lying there like that, open to the elements, until they come back about 2.5 hours later, all right? And he says, we're ready for you. And you think, well, thanks, mate. And so then he gets back between your legs. Right. And he's kind of masked. He's got goggles on, cycle helmet, you know, latex gloves, hazmat suit. You know, fucking hell, mate, what have you seen down there? And he gets between your legs. And the thing is, you see, you can't see. You don't know what he's doing. You don't know what he's up to. You think he could be doing all kinds of things. You know, he could be planting half a dozen rose bushes or whatever it is. Could be doing anything. You know, writing a novel. And he says, right, okay. He says, I'm going in. I'm going in, mate. And you can't actually see it, but it kind of feels, I suppose, like a kind of staple gun, you know, like a kind of love gun thing. And so, and you can't see the size of it. You see, so it might be the size of your finger. I suspect it's a little bit bigger, actually. It might be the size of a kind of Cumberland sausage. I went to this pub in Kent a few months ago, and it said local Cumberland sausages. Anyway, so it might be a Cumberland sausage, right? It might be, I don't know, it might be a sausage in batter, like you get on a Friday night down the chip shop. Of all you know, it could be fucking pineapple that's going up in there. Anyway. So he says, all right, I'm going to take about 12 samples of tissue from your prostate. So it'll feel a little bit uncomfortable, but it shouldn't be painful. If it's painful, you let me know. Okay, so you think, all right, fair enough. So I'm lying back like that, you see, because I'm kind of starting to get into it. I'm quite enjoying it. He says, put your hands on your chest, you know, do as you're told. So I do that, and then he goes, and you feel, oh. And it feels like a kind of needle going up, pulling something, and then coming out again. Now, whether that's actually what happens is difficult to say, but that's what it feels like. So it feels like he's kind of shooting this dart, you know, like a harpoon. You know, a harpoon. Have you seen that dreadful film, Avatar, The Way of Water, where they chase after the whale-like beast with a harpoon? So it's a bit like that. So the harpoon is a bit of string attached to it. He goes, he shoots it up, puts up your ass, pulls out a little bit of tissue, and then he puts it on the table, and the nurse does what he does. So then he does about 3 or 4 of these, you see. And I'm lying there, and I'm thinking, quite like this, actually. And I said, how many are you going to do, Doc? And, you know, I start having a kind of discussion with it. And he says, Julian, he says, "What are you, Julian?" I said, yeah, he said, can you shut up, please? I'm trying to concentrate. So I said, oh, you know, terribly sorry. But there's all these people in the room, you know, all the cabinet ministers and traffic wardens and Chris Froome and so forth. They've all come back. So you think, well, you know, might as well have a little bit of a chat with them. So you're lying there, and he says to you, is it uncomfortable? And I'm thinking to myself, actually, it's quite nice, actually. So I said, no. I said, it's all right. I said, I'll hang around for a few hours, take as much as you want. So he's going, let's get out all these fucking samples. And then he says, okay, I'm going to do the other side now. And you think, what? We go to the other side. So he's going, pushed it that way, and now he's pushed it that way. He's pushed it that way, and you think, blimey, what are you getting in there? You know, we don't trank you, and half a dozen kids living in there now. So anyway, he fires some more. He fires some more darts, and he says, I think I've finished now. And then he removes. Well, you're gonna love this. He removes about half a dozen of those Lindor reindeer, you know what I'm talking about, the teddy bears with the gold bells around their neck, and the Father Christmas, still in the tin foil. And you think, oh, sorry, mate, I forgot I left him in there with Christmas. It was 12th night, I should have taken them out. And then he says, you know, what's it like? You know, is it okay? And I said, you know, I'm really enjoying it. I'm lying back, I'm thinking of England, and it's like a metaphor for the health service, all right? You're lying back, okay? You're short of money. You're a little bit tired and so forth. And there's Steve Barclay between your legs shafting you. And you think, I know just what the health service feels like. Thanks. It's really nice. He says, you know, okay, you've done really well. What do you think? I said, I'll come back next week if you've got any appointments going, mate. I've quite enjoyed it. So then he goes away to do his business with the TV screen and processes samples and put them on the computer and the internet for everybody to see. And the healthcare assistant comes along and says, okay, you know, get up slowly because you might feel a bit dizzy. And they unstrap you, see, so you're kind of debondaged. So your legs can roam free, if you like, and you pull your dress down to cover your bits and so forth, and you stand up. And I felt all right, actually. And they say to you, right, you could be a bit sore, right? And when the anaesthetic wears off, it can be a little bit painful. But I didn't, and I've had a few comments on my previous video, by the way, but people saying, oh, I had this done and it was quite painful. I've got to say, right, it was not painful at all. It's a little bit uncomfortable when that pineapple is up there, up your fundament, as it were. And a couple of the last kind of air gun pellets that he fired into me, I kind of felt those, but it was like a needle going in. So it was unpleasant. It wasn't painful. It wasn't unpleasant. It's just you kind of noticed it, but it was fine. So then he says, okay, you can get dressed now. We're all done. So okay, we've finished the detail of the biopsy. So if you have yourself a cup of tea or a cigarette, maybe dish of spicy beans or a Lindor reindeer, but probably not one of mine, I suggest. And I'll be back in a moment to finish off this little section. Okay, so I'm back again. So you get yourself dressed, okay, and you go back to see the nurse, and the nurse says, oh, you're right. And you say, yeah, I'm fine. And she says, okay, do you want a cup of tea? And you say, yeah, I'll have a cup of tea. And she says, you want some water? I say, yes, I want some water. And they say, we want you to pass urine, you see. So I'm thinking, okay, well, let me have a drink, let it go down. So we're kind of sitting there. And of course, you're sitting in silence. I mean, there's me and there's a wife and there's a nurse and there's another nurse as well. And you're just kind of sitting there going like that. You know? And I'm waiting for the, your innards to do their bit. And you think, and then I say, okay, I need a wee, you see. Well, I think I can do a wee now. She says, okay, good. I said, have you got a specimen bottle? And she says, no. She says, I don't need a specimen. You just need to do a wee. So I'm kind of sitting there and I'm thinking to myself, what here? What now? You know, and she says, no. I said, you can go to the toilet. So I go to the toilet, I do a wee, I come back, they're all kind of looking at me. You know, the two nurses and the wife and so on. They're looking at me. So, and I'm like, what? And they said, did you do a wee? I said, yeah, I did a wee. I've been in the fucking toilet. What do you think about it? I did a wee. And they said, okay, fine. How do you feel? I said, yeah, I feel all right. I feel great. They said, you may be a little bit sore. Oh, the other thing is, right, and this is where we get the cycling in, right? So the only thing I was interested in, right, I said to the consultant when he'd finished burrowing around like a fucking hobbit, I said, can I cycle? You see, I'm a keen cyclist. He kind of looks at me and says, you're a cyclist? He says, you don't look like a cyclist. I've told that joke so many times, and it's still not funny. And he says, well, I wouldn't do it for a couple of weeks. He said, don't put too much pressure on your prostate. So, you know, there's no cycling activity going. There's no Zwifting either for 2 weeks. Anyway, I'm feeling fine. I'm feeling okay. I've got no pain down below, no soreness. And I walk back through the park with my wife and we drive home. And then I have to drink, because my wife says I have to drink, go to the toilet. So I drink about 40 cups of tea. And I'm pissing like a fucking goat all afternoon. I'm thinking, boy, I've pissed like this since I was 16. Anyway, so they've got the tissue samples from my prostate, and the next thing, and the next video, will be once they've done the assessment of the analysis and they give me what the results of that were. So hope you've enjoyed this particular delving into Julian's deep. And if it is going to, or you think it might be happening to you, I hope this has given you some idea of what to expect. And it is, although undignified is perhaps a reasonable way of describing it, it is by no means an unpleasant or a nasty or a horrible procedure. And in fact, I would say I found the whole thing really rather pleasant. So, and the other thing is excellent service from the NHS. Everybody incredibly nice, incredibly helpful, incredibly friendly, incredibly professional, etc., etc. So let's hope that situation continues. I hope you've enjoyed, if that's not the wrong word for this video, this particular video, and I look forward to seeing you next time.